the courts. It's striking to hear the chief federal judge in Minnesota say that ICE has been defying 100 different court orders and that ICE is behaving as if ICE itself is the law.
It's crazy to me to have that said by the chief judge of the District of Minnesota, particularly given his background. You know, we have said this many times, but when it comes to the lawlessness of this administration, the folks who are calling that out are not all appointees of Democratic presidents. Many of them have conservative legal movement bona fides. That is absolutely true of this particular judge, Patrick Schiltz. And the order in which he related that, Katie, is not one where he had to say any of that. The question was just, is Todd Lyons going to come to his courtroom on Friday and testify or not? And he said, it's no longer necessary. You have told me that you released the person in question. He was supposed to come and explain why the person hadn't been released. And they said, he's been released. We agree. The hearing is off. But then he took the opportunity to say, I have spoken with the other judges in my district. We have counted between us nearly 100 instances in which ICE has not followed our orders.
So what's the recourse and what's still open?
Well, I think a lot of the things that are still open are civil applications. So, for example, the state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities have a pending motion for a temporary restraining order against the continued operation of Metro Surge. They're also asking, if it continues, to have this Judge Kate Menendez rein in some of the tactics that are being used on the ground against people who aren't subject to enforcement, immigration-related arrests. But some of the other things that are open go back to something that David was saying. When we're thinking about the immigrants who are being detained, who are the cause of the protests on the ground, many of them have brought cases recently saying, your right to detain me is in question. You didn't have a warrant, judicial or administrative. Or I have status in this country. I never should have been picked up in the first place. And that's where our colleague Fallon Gallagher and I did a review of 61 cases that were decided between January 20th, January 27th, where immigrants were challenging their detention. We found that in all but one case, with judges appointed by both Democrats and Republicans, the immigrants won every single time but one. And in that one outstanding case, the person had a criminal history. But in all of the rest, not only did they have no criminal history, they were arrested in circumstances that turn your stomach. A Kenyan woman outside a CVS looking for her seizure medication, about to walk in and get it. Somebody who was a deferred action for childhood arrivals, a dreamer, who had lawful status to be here. Other people who entered as refugees or had pending claims for asylum, had never missed a court date, had filled out all their paperwork. Someone who had permission to be here as a victim of violence under the Violence Against Women Act. And it goes on and on and on. To a person, to almost a case, with one exception. Every time the judges are saying, you have no right to detain these people. It sort of underscores what we're seeing on the streets.
Right? There are laws in this country. There are laws. And ICE has to abide by those laws. And that's just the way it works. It's a country of laws. And anything that you do to change that, well, that means we're not living in a democracy any longer if we're not going to be living under the rule of law, or if some people are not living under the rule of law and everybody else is, or if those laws suddenly change and you don't know they change, or ICE decides it itself as its own law.